Every chateau has its story, and mine started with a place almost ready, a holiday home waiting to become something deeper. When I found this chateau, it wasn't a ruin, but it needed someone to truly live in it. Bit by bit, I've made it my own, navigating the ups and downs of renovation and life itself. Beyond these walls, I'm a dancer, a choreographer, a creative soul bringing that same passion into every corner of this home. Join me as we dive into how it all began, not just a renovation story, but a journey of finding home and self along the way. In early 2022, my ex-husband and I set off to find a holiday home, a retreat where we could escape and find peace. After months of searching, our path led us to Salon region, and in June, we finally traveled to Angoulême. We'd planned to view several properties over the weekend, but the moment we arrived at this hidden gem, something felt different. I was standing before a structure that wasn't just a building, but a piece of history, with outer walls dating back to the 14th century and foundations that hinted at centuries of stories. Though officially a 16th century chateau, its stone walls spoke of eras far older. This place was unlike anything we'd seen. Despite its worn-out decor, it felt like home, a feeling I'd longed for as an immigrant child, born in Poland and raised in Germany. At that moment, I thought we'd found a peaceful getaway, but little did I know, this chateau would become my permanent home much sooner than I'd ever imagined. Life had other plans, and the following months would bring rapid, unexpected changes that led me back to this place, this piece of history, as my true home. For the first time, I felt that I had found my place in the world. It wasn't just a property, it was a chance to connect with history, to start fresh, and to create a home that felt truly mine. And that's where our story begins. Formalities were quick and we managed to buy the chateau by October. Woo! And we wanted to already go and get the keys for the chateau, but then...
Wir haben ein Problem. Meine Mutter wurde gerade auf Corona-positiv getestet.
We had been counting on my parents taking care of Louis, our dog, because as you can see, the car was jam-packed with stuff that we wanted to bring down for the first renovations that I was starting while I was being alone after my husband left again. Although the car was jam-packed, I still managed to leave a bit of space between the legs of the passenger for Louis to come with us to France. As we drew closer to the chateau, I could feel a mix of excitement and disbelief. We were about to hold the keys to a place that had only existed in our dreams just months ago, and now it was ours. I kept looking out the window, taking in the countryside, wondering what life would be like in this new chapter. Louis nestled quietly at our feet as if sensing the importance of the journey. Every kilometer brought us closer to the unknown, to the life where we were beginning together in a home that was already filled with so much history. And as we finally arrived, reality set in. The first steps were small, setting up an internet connection, unpacking the essentials, but the moment we put together that bed, we knew we were no longer visitors. This was home.
Jetzt können wir nämlich schlafen und den Ausblick genießen am Morgen, nicht wie vorher.
The next morning, after our first night in the chateau, the reality of this place truly set in. The rooms were in desperate need of love and we decided to start with the simplest changes, like updating the colors. After dropping my husband off at the train station to head back to Germany, I returned to the chateau alone, ready to get to work. I had those 2 weeks to bring some life into these walls, and I knew I'd start with the Grand Salon. The Salon was overwhelming, vast and painted in an outdated, oppressive yellow. My vision was for something calm and timeless, so I set out to paint every inch of the room in an off-white, creating a fresh slate to begin our journey. It was exhausting work, transforming such a large room, but slowly, the hideous yellow disappeared under each stroke, and a sense of renewal took its place. Between coats of paint, I could feel the room slowly transforming around me. Painting it off-white wasn't just about covering up the old, worn yellow. It was about creating a canvas, a fresh background for the stories and memories that would one day fill this space. The soft neutral tones brought a calmness, turning the salon from a place frozen in time into one with endless possibilities. Each brushstroke felt like an invitation for the future to take root here, a foundation for the life I was beginning to build. Once the walls were complete, I moved to the fireplace, realizing it needed a focal point to feel truly welcoming. Without a proper mantelpiece, there was nowhere to rest any keepsakes or decoration. So I built one from scratch, a simple design, but one that made all the difference. And finally, I turned to the windows. Cleaning and framing them in black allowed each one to act like a picture frame, capturing glimpses of the nature outside. The windows became portals to the landscape, framing the beauty beyond these walls. And as I finished up, leaving everything as spotless as I could before heading back to Germany, I could see just how much these small steps had transformed the chateau into a place of belonging. Welcome to the present day. I am just editing this video and I need to jump to present day to tell you the rest of the story until we get back to the chateau. It's unbelievable, first off, that I'm just sitting here and I'm cutting this video and I'm looking at this video material, and it's so surreal that all of this happened. It feels like another life, although it has just been not even 2 years at this point. So I got back to Germany. I was teaching yoga, I was preparing all my projects. I still had a big project coming up in November, December that was just finishing, I think mid-December in Frankfurt, and then we were going back to the chateau. But during this project, we were staying in Frankfurt and something really horrible happened, and I don't even have video material of this in between time because it really feels like we were stuck in limbo for a bit. At the end of November, I was in Frankfurt rehearsing, and in the middle of the night, like literally in the middle of the night, I get a call from my ex-husband now, who said that he's in the emergency room with our dog Louis. Louis by that time was almost 15 years old and had been taking heart medication and everything, but he was dying. So he basically went to the emergency room, and Louis had a lot of water in his lungs built up because his heart wasn't working well, and his heart stopped working well, although he was taking his medication and everything. So the doctor said like she could do something, but then he would end up the next day again in the emergency room, and I didn't want him to suffer. So we did put Louis down. It was really horrible. I mean, it was good that I could join in on a video call and I could see him and I could say goodbye to him. But he was our baby, you know? And losing this, like, I don't know, he was the fabric between my ex-husband and me as well, I think. So losing him was really tough for the both of us. And I really couldn't deal with that loss, and it really felt empty. So I was like, I can't live without another dog. I don't want life without a dog. I can't imagine it. And so I started looking for a dog. And suddenly we found someone, and we found a little scared puppy that needed someone to take care of it. On we go with the video. Anita came to us as a 1-year-old rescued from a shelter in Croatia. She'd had a rough start and the world was a big, intimidating place for her. Everything was new. Every sound, every movement, even the simple act of riding in a car. She was cautious, unsure of this new life, and after just 1 week together we faced a big challenge, a 1,000-kilometer drive from Germany down to France, to bring her to the chateau for her very first Christmas. The journey was long and she wasn't a fan of the car, but somehow we made it and that holiday became something special. Christmas came and went quickly, but it marked her first real taste of family, of warmth and a place to feel safe. After the holidays, we threw ourselves back into the renovations, preparing rooms for friends who would join us over at New Year's. Step by step, Anita and the chateau became part of our new life, each of us finding our place in this unfolding journey. The first room I tackled was the kitchen, giving it a fresh coat of paint and a new feel. From there, we worked room by room, focusing on each space individually to make it guest-ready. The Chambre was our first major project, a large guest room on the second floor. We were racing against time, wanting to have everything in place before friends arrived for their stay. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if we rushed too much. I feel that I would have preferred to take the time to start from scratch, especially on the second floor, which was the least renovated space in the chateau. Instead of diving deep and stripping everything down, we settled for making it functional. In hindsight, it might have been better to keep things simple for our guests and wait to properly renovate when time allowed. But these are lessons you only learn through experience. Especially when it's your first major renovation. Every choice we made was a part of the learning curve, teaching us what truly matters in transforming a home. And then came the nightmare room, the green room. My parents were there to help, but we were all exhausted. My ex-husband wasn't well, I wasn't well, and neither were my parents. Tensions ran high, and suddenly, what started as a renovation became a fight. We argued, and amidst the stress and frustration, I found myself facing something deeper. It was in that moment I began to see cracks in my marriage, things that had been breaking down over time. I realized how often I had stayed silent, holding in my feelings instead of speaking up. I'd felt alone, torn between roles, trying to keep everyone happy, but in doing so I had lost my own voice. That fight in the green room became a turning point, a moment that forced me to confront what had been long lingering beneath the surface. So at that point I already had met Alexei, and we had just sporadically spent some time together. And New Year's was coming up. And I know that New Year's was a huge turning point for me because I sat next to Alexei. We had a little party all together and I stared at him, and then I really it felt like we were sitting next to each other, and yes, we were drunk, but it really felt like we were staring through each other into one another in such a different way. It felt like he was seeing me and I was seeing him, and in that moment I knew that I had fallen in love with him. With our friends already settled in for New Year's, we turned our attention to the Overgrown pool. It was a daunting task, but together we tackled it piece by piece, clearing away years of neglect. Having him there made the work feel lighter, even in the cold of January. I continued working on the house, and my husband had left. And already there were cracks showing in our marriage, and we had a couple of arguments over the phone. So it was a really awkward and weird situation. I was hyper focused on getting the house ready, and doing the renovations actually allowed me to think about stuff, to have time and space to reflect on my feelings and emotions and what was going on inside of me, and to actually see what I was yearning for, and to actually understand what I wanted from all of this and what I wanted from life ultimately. And I saw that I wanted this, and I didn't want a holiday home or a place where I could run retreats and then go back to Germany. I wanted to live here. And suddenly I didn't want that with my husband, which is like quite shocking. And I really feel that I had broken his heart at that point so badly. And I am very sorry until this day. And I'm on speaking terms. We did speak about this documentary that I'm planning to do it. And I asked him for his permission that I show video material of him as well. And he said he didn't have any problem with it. And I think it always takes two to tango. I think we were right in that moment where we met in our 20s. I think marriage was something that we saw as something very pragmatic as well, not only romantic. It made sense at that time. But I think essentially we were people who were denying themselves a life or designing a life that each of us want to lead. And I think we did work amazing as a team, but there's just something missing. There's just something. And I think if he thinks about it, I think I think he also feels the same way now. But at that moment, I think it was horrible for him. It was horrible for me to put him through this. And till this day, when I think about this, and when I just think about like how this whole, even just watching the video material from the green room, and I just curated some, it almost made my heart break, because I could feel all those feelings again in that situation, and it was horrendous. It was absolutely horrendous, that feeling. And I never want to feel that way again. That torn, that lost. Yeah, just really, it was a lot. After everyone left, I stayed on alone, working through January to keep making progress. Seeing more of Alexi, and in between renovation, our connection just grew stronger. By February, I had planned to return to Germany, a quick visit before resuming work here. But life had other plans. I was in Germany for less than a day, just 8 or 10 hours before heading back to France. That marked the beginning of my divorce process and the end of this first chapter in the chateau journey.
Weniger als 14 Stunden hier. Ich wurde rausgeschmissen. Mehr dazu gibt es später. Ich glaube, wir fahren wieder nach Frankreich. Meine ich zu glauben. Ich bin mir sehr unsicher. Ich habe meine Sachen zusammengepackt. Ich darf Anita nicht mitnehmen. Alles im Auto. Weniger als ein paar Stunden in Düsseldorf. Auf geht's zurück nach Frankreich. Ich glaube, dass Mitch und ich uns getrennt haben. Ich glaube, es ist für mich persönlich super wichtig, diesen Schritt jetzt alleine zu gehen und mein Leben neu zu sortieren. Ich glaube, mein Leben ist sowieso seit der Pandemie in einem großen Umbruch. Auf jeden Fall werde ich versuchen, das Haus weiter zu renovieren. mit Orléans. Ich bin noch immer super wach, obwohl ich richtig beschissen geschlafen habe. Eigentlich gar nicht. Wir sind am letzten Ladepunkt angekommen. Chateau. Und jetzt geht es nach Restaurant.
So there I was back again at home, or what I classified as my home, and where I felt at home the most in all of the world. I thought I had taken the right decision, and I still think I have taken the right decision of going back to France that night and not going somewhere else. I know that it was risky, and I know that I drove 2,000 kilometers in almost just 2 days without any sleep, basically. And look, even now, Anita is here and we share custody over her together. And she spends part of her time in Germany and part of her time in France. And things have worked out with a lot of time, a lot of healing, a lot of talking, and a bit of compromising on both parts. I'm really, really glad this didn't turn into a nasty, nasty divorce, and I'm incredibly thankful for that. And I know that I am very lucky that this actually happened that way. I hope you liked this first part. This is the very first part of my journey, and from now on in the second part we'll be diving deeper in renovating more the chateau and how I arrived in France and how it was the first few months being back and all this emotional turmoil. If you don't want to miss any of them, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell notification button and like the video. All that's left to say is à bientôt et au revoir. Bisous from the southwest of France, and I shall talk to you very soon. Bye. Oui, on va manger?